All right, if you're building integration flows in SAP CPI, there is one tool that you will absolutely use more than any other. It's called the Content Modifier, and today we're going to pull back the curtain and really demystify this fundamental and, incredibly powerful part of the platform.
So here's the plan. We're going to start with the big picture, the why, this great integration challenge. Then we'll introduce the star of the show, our transformation tool. We'll pop the hood and look inside, then put it to work with a real example. And of course, we'll cover some pro tips and common pitfalls and wrap it all up by showing you why this thing is truly at the heart of almost every single iFlow.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Why do we even need something like a content modifier? Well, think about any modern company. It's not running on one piece of software, right? It's running on dozens. You've got success factors over here for HR, maybe another system for payroll, Salesforce for your sales team. I mean, the list just goes on and on.
And that brings up a really important question. How do you get all of these different applications, all built with different code, different data formats? How do you get them to actually talk to each other and share information?
The answer is something called middleware, and SAP CPI is a perfect example of it. Middleware is basically the bridge that connects everything together. I love this analogy. Think of a food delivery app. You don't call the restaurant, figure out their menu system, and place your order directly. No way. The app acts as the bridge. It takes your order, translates it for the restaurant, and handles all that back and forth. Middleware does the exact same job, but for software systems.
So if middleware like CPI is the bridge, well, we need tools to actually manage the traffic flowing across that bridge. And inside SAP CPI, our master traffic controller, our translator, our message manipulator, that's the content modifier.
And its job is pretty much what it sounds like, right? It modifies the content of a message as it zips through an integration flow. You can use it to change the message headers, you can add some temporary data just for the journey, or you can totally rewrite the main message itself, the body.
Honestly, the best way to think about it is as the Swiss Army knife of CPI. It's got a tool for almost everything you need to do. It's versatile, it's essential, and you are going to find it in nearly every single iFlow you ever built, from the super simple ones to the crazy complex ones.
All right, let's pop the hood on this thing. To really get good with the content modifier, you've got to understand its three main parts.
So when you open one up, you'll see these three tabs staring back at you. Each one gives you a different power. You've got message headers, exchange properties, and the message body.
Now listen, this is a concept that trips up so many developers, but the difference is actually really simple once you get it. Message headers are like luggage tags. They are attached to your message, and they travel with it all the way to the final destination. The receiving system can read them. Exchange properties, on the other hand, are like little sticky notes you use during the journey. They're temporary variables, useful only inside the iFlow, and they get thrown away before the final delivery.
And here is a fantastic pro tip for you. The order of operations matters. The content modifier always works in this sequence. Headers first, then properties, then the body. Now, why is that so powerful? Well, it means you can create a value in a header, and in the very next tab, the Properties tab, you can immediately use that header's value. You can do it all in the same single step. It's so efficient.
Okay, theory is great and all, but let's actually see this thing in action. We're going to walk through a simple but really practical scenario that shows how all these pieces fit together beautifully.
So imagine this simple XML message comes into our integration flow. All it has is a first name and a last name. And our job is to pull that data out and reformat it into something else entirely.
So inside our content modifier, here is the setup. It's super straightforward. First, in the header tab, we'll create a new header, call it first name, and use a simple XPath expression to just grab the value from that name tag. Then, we do the same exact thing for a last name, but this time we'll store it as a temporary exchange property.
And now for the magic trick. We go to the third tab, the message body. We can completely wipe out the old XML and write something new. Using these simple little expressions, we just call the header and the property that we literally just created. We're building a whole new message on the fly.
And there you have it. The original XML is gone. It's been replaced by our clean, transformed message. We've just extracted data, stored it in two different ways, and rebuilt the content from scratch, all in one simple, elegant step. That's the power right there.
So you've seen what it can do. Now let's cover a few expert tips and some common pitfalls to watch out for. Getting these right will help you use the content modifier like a real pro and save you a ton of frustrating headaches down the line.
Okay, a few best practices to live by. First, please use clear descriptive names for your headers and properties. Temp1 is not helpful. Your future self will thank you. Also, don't forget you can use dynamic expressions to add things like the current date or time. And here's a key performance tip. If you're working with big chunks of temporary data, stick it in a property to keep the main message payload clean, but try to keep those properties reasonably small to make sure everything runs fast.
You will absolutely run into some challenges, but here are the quick fixes for the most common ones. If your XPath isn't working, don't just guess. Use an external tool to check your syntax before you deploy. Be really careful about modifying critical system headers. You can break things if you don't know what the receiving system needs. And this is a big one. If you're converting XML to JSON and need an array, you have to remember to use the streaming option to get the format right.
This brings us to a question that we see all the time in the community forums, on Stack Overflow, everywhere. Can you use XPath to read JSON data inside a content modifier?
And the answer is a very clear and simple no. Not directly. You've got to remember, XPath is a language built specifically for XML. It's in the name. If you need to dig into some JSON and pull values out, you'll need to reach for a different tool in your CPI toolkit, which is the Groovy Script step.
So we've seen what it does, how it works, the good and the bad. Let's just bring this all home and talk about why this simple-looking little box is truly the heart of the iFlow.
You really shouldn't be fooled by how simple it looks. I love this quote from the developer, the #architect on YouTube, because it's just so true. Even in the most complicated, mind-bending integration flows, you're going to see the content modifier used over and over and over again. It is the fundamental building block for message transformation.
So from that big integration challenge all the way down to the nitty-gritty of building a new message, that is the content modifier. It is your Swiss Army knife for SAP CPI. So I guess the only question left to ask is, now that you really get it, what complex integration are you going to go simplify?